Hello everybody and welcome to our YouTube channel. Thanks for stopping by. In today's video, we're going to show you how to break down the GB120. If you're not familiar with the GB120, I highly recommend our in-depth review videos. This is one of the most travel-friendly scooters on the market, the easiest to load into the trunk of the car. It's TSA friendly. We even have a video showing you the experience of what it's like to travel by airplane with this scooter. We have tons of other videos as well. In this video, we're going to show you how to break down the base so that you can change the motor, change the controller, the power board, change the main wire harness, and basically change every major component on the base. We're going to show you what tools you need and walk you through the process, even show you some awesome tech tips along the way to make the job easier. So if you need to do something like replace that little plastic ejector button or anything around the base, this video is going to help you. We are not going to cover how to adjust or replace parts on the tiller, aka the dash. We have other videos for that and another video coming out soon, so make sure you subscribe if you want to see videos on how to fix the dash. We also have an unboxing video. If you want to see what that's like, click the top right-hand corner of the screen where it says unboxing video. And before we get started, like always, I need to tell you about our free product catalog. It has coupon codes, a bunch of information about our latest products. To claim a copy, go to our website, mobilitydirect.com. Click on the green button that says free catalog at the top of every page. Fill out the simple short form and you'll get one in the mail within 1 to 2 weeks tops. We also have non-commissioned sales experts here to help you if you have any questions, or if we didn't cover anything in the video that you have a question about. Just reach out to us with the number below or visit one of our stores. We have tons of products you can test drive. We have technicians available. We'd love to earn your business. One last thing, if you subscribe to our YouTube channel, you're automatically entered into our giveaway program. We do randomly select a subscriber and we give them a free mobility scooter all the time. So if you want a chance to win, just subscribe and leave a comment. You'll be entered into the giveaway program. All right, so let's get started. I would like to point out first that this is a very difficult task. No other scooter requires 46 screws to take apart the base. While it's our top selling scooter, I believe some technicians are not really happy with the way it's put together and taken apart. Hence the title of this video. Now, I will say that it's an awesome scooter, very, very low defect rate. So the first thing I'm doing is removing the seat and removing the battery. You never want to have a battery connected. You don't want to short anything out. So always disconnect power whenever you're taking apart a scooter. And to remove the seat platform, you're going to see 4 bolts on the bottom of the scooter. You're going to need a 6mm hex key. And you'll want to go ahead and just counterclockwise unscrew those bolts. There are going to be some washers underneath the bolt heads. And on the front 2 bolts, when you pull them out, you're going to notice there are some spacers in there. So don't lose them. I do recommend taking pictures of all the different screws and bolts. Again, there are 46 different screws and bolts. So taking pictures is almost a must. I would highly recommend a magnetic hardware tray as well. So once those 4 bolts come out, you'll see that the seat platform is easily removable. The next thing I'm going to do is lower the tiller and tip the scooter over on its side. Now underneath the scooter, you're going to notice the letter M on several of the screw holes. So start with all the M's and then you can take out the ones with the letter S afterwards. The reason why I do it in this order is so that I can keep all of my screws together. 46 screws. I can't say it enough. That's a lot of screws. And you need to be organized. So take pictures as often as possible. Take videos with your phone so you know where things go and you know how to put Humpty Dumpty back together again. Again, this is not an easy job. You should be a technician if you're attempting to do this on your own. This is not the type of scooter that you're going to want to putz around with if you've never worked on a scooter before. So I took out most of the screws with the letter M. There are a few that are kind of hard to get with a drill. A drill is a must, by the way. If you want to sit there and crank out 46 screws by hand, be my guest, but I would highly recommend a low torque setting drill instead of using a manual driver. So I went ahead and removed all of the M screws. Now I'm going to go with the S screws. So on the 2 holes in the back that I'm pulling out now, you'll see that the screws are a bit smaller. You'll want to separate those, put them in your magnetic tray, and there is 1 additional small screw on the front handle as well. That's going to make a total of 3 smaller screws, which I'm keeping separate on my magnetic tray. And what I'm doing now is popping off the colored panels in the back, exposing 2 bolts that go right through the motor frame. So the transaxle motor and electromagnetic brake assembly, it's held onto the frame with 2 bolts. You're gonna need a 14mm socket. I'd recommend a deep socket. And you're gonna want a 6mm hex on the other side, which I'm holding together with a pair of pliers because it's deep in there and I had to use the long side to go into the hole. So you'll need that same 6mm. And I decided to put that 14mm socket on a drill to make the job easier. I tend to use my drill for a lot of different things. Now, when you're getting ready to remove the tiller, you're gonna need an 8mm hex. It's a big boy, okay? So get that 8mm hex, put it right through the hole that the tiller goes through, and then what I like to do is get a crescent wrench, and that allows you to use leverage, because I only have the short side of the Allen key, or the hex key, and it's really hard to loosen that up. So use that crescent wrench, rotate counterclockwise, and you're gonna be able to then really access the last 2 screws, which are hard to get until you remove that steering rod and kind of get it out of the way. And then you can remove the last 2 screws that are down there. Tip it over, you're gonna have those 2 screws fall out, put them in your tray, and then that main bolt that holds the tiller in place from underneath will fall out as well. You'll wanna keep track of everything, take pictures. I can't stress it enough. You have to take pictures when doing this job for the first time, or else you will not be able to put Humpty Dumpty back together again. All right, so on the bottom side of the scooter, you had 2 little small screws that you take out, and those are gonna hold that little cap in place for the main wire harness. And if you wanna replace that main wire harness, if you take the tape out that's underneath the battery, that'll give you a little bit of extra slack so that you can just disconnect the main wire harness at the clip there, assuming you only wanna replace the tiller. You don't actually need to take apart the entire base just to replace the tiller. So by removing the tape, getting that slack, all you gotta do is remove the tiller with that 1 main bolt that goes underneath, and then disconnecting the clip, and you'll be good to go. Now, if you need to replace the main wire harness, or if you need to replace the ejection button, then yeah, you gotta go through the 46 screws to take the base apart. Now I'm removing 6 screws along the top, 3 on the left, 3 on the right. Those are gonna be underneath the red or blue colored panels. And you're gonna wanna remove the reflective stickers on the left and right side so that you can take apart the top half of the base. So I went through that process, built up a sweat. 46 screws later, there they are, literally counting them all out, no joke. So you can see for yourself, not an easy job, but hey, let's move forward with separating that base. So when you're taking the top half of the base apart, you will need to be careful. Don't just yank it out. You're gonna need to disconnect those 2 blue cables from the electromagnetic brake. Make sure to take pictures of the orientation of those 2 blue cables. I can't remind you enough that taking pictures is going to save you when you're putting this thing back together. So I've got the base completely detached, the top half from the bottom half. And we're gonna get to work on showing you how to replace the spring-loaded ejection button for the battery. This is a pretty common one. I will say that that little ejection assembly for the battery, that button, needs some work. It's made out of a plastic, and customers are rough. They do not treat their scooters gently. They don't use that button with a gentle touch. They're rather rough with it. I've seen it firsthand many times. So you're gonna need to remove the 4 screws that I took out here. There's gonna be a total of 5 pieces. So you've got the left and the right little holders that I already removed with the 4 screws. Underneath the frame, you're gonna see 2 additional screws that I left in place. Those are gonna be the screws that hold in that button, and there's springs around the housing on the left and the right side of that button. So I just took those screws out, and now you can take the button out. Now hold the springs because they will pop out and you don't wanna lose them. I'm showing you what the button assembly is intended to do. When you push that button down, you're gonna notice the piece that's all the way towards the user kind of pops upwards, while the piece on top of that slides forward and back. So you've got number 1, the button. It has 2 springs. Then you have the slider that goes forward and back. You want to make sure that the ramp section is pointing towards the front of the scooter when you put it all back together. And then you have the one piece that pops the battery up when you push the button all the way down. Pay attention to the orientation, how it's sitting. You've got the short side facing forward, the long side facing back towards the battery, and underneath all that is the main wire harness. So when you put it back together, assuming you have a new assembly, you put the little pop-up first, then the slider with the ramp part facing forward, and then the ejection button. Then you want to go ahead and put the brackets, the right side and the left side bracket that hold the slider in place. Screw those back in. Okay, if you need to rewatch this, rewind, go back several times if you need to, because this is a complicated job to replace that assembly. Hopefully in the future, they'll make that out of a little bit more of a durable material. But what I'm doing is I'm pushing down on the button and then holding my hand on top of the button and then screwing those two bottom screws to secure that button with the springs in place. And that's how you're going to replace that button assembly. Unfortunately, it is a common job because, like I said, I just don't think customers are gentle enough with that button. If you are having a hard time getting the battery to seat or come out, don't use force. You know, that tape sometimes gets in the way. So take the tape out, put some new tape on it. Sometimes that happens, especially in humid and hot environments where that adhesive kind of fluffs up. Now we're moving forward towards the headlights. As you can see, they slide right out, and it's just a 2-wire clip. There's nothing to it. I've never seen headlights go bad, but if you need to take them out, you don't even need any screws to come out. The screws are just tight enough to hold them in place. You can push forward and they're going to slide right out. I'm actually going to take the time to show you that the lights are connected to the main wire assembly, which runs underneath that button assembly. So if you do need to replace the main wire harness, you will need to disconnect the lights, disconnect the button assembly, and then basically detach all of the connections from the controller, which we're going to get into that next here in just a bit. You also have the horn buzzer right next to the controller. And of course, you've got your positive and the negative for the motor, positive, negative for the battery, and another clip for the power board, the electromagnetic brakes, all connecting to the controller. So if you need to replace your horn buzzer, there's just a 2-wire clip there with a screw holding the buzzer into place. The rear light, it's held in by 2 screws with the letter S on the bottom of the frame that we already took out, and a 2-wire clip. I've never had to replace that either, but in the event that you need to, you will need to take apart the base and just disconnect the 2 clips, put the new light in, and put it all back together again. What we're going to do now is take the controller out. The controller is held in by 2 screws. One on the back right and one on the top, or towards the front on the left. So take those 2 screws out, and what we're going to do now is completely remove the controller. We've taken out the positive and the negative for the battery, positive and the negative for the motor, and there's your controller. It's a dynamic R series controller, very, very high quality controller. Once you remove the controller, you're going to see the power board, which is right under the controller. The good thing about these pieces is that you really can't connect anything the wrong way. Every connection is unique, and they are only compatible with one of the receivers, the male and the female ends. You can't connect one connection to the wrong end because they're all unique fittings. They're all unique sizes. The only thing you might do is accidentally connect the motor and the battery, positive and the negatives, but they're clearly labeled, so you don't need to worry about that. We're going to remove the power board now. You do need a 732 socket and a Phillips head screwdriver. Underneath the base, you will see those 2 screws. You want to go ahead and use your socket on top of the power board and go underneath with the driver, have the scooter on its side, and just be careful you don't lose the nuts, and your power board's going to come right out. So the power board's loose now. We pretty much have the entire base disassembled and all of the components removed, except for the axles, which we'll not really cover in this video. You really don't want to be replacing the axles or adjusting the alignment on these units. It's kind of a tricky job. I'd recommend just replacing the whole front axles if you need to do anything like that. So here's the power board, and like I said, you've got unique size fittings and colored fittings, so everything's either color coordinated or the size of everything is pretty much, you know, unique so that you can't really plug anything in the wrong way. So I'm putting the new power board in. Assuming you have to replace the power board, you don't have to take apart the base. You can actually just pop off the technician access cover underneath the seat. There's 2 little hand screws, and you'll be able to replace the controller or the power board easily. Next, we're going to remove the transaxle and electromagnetic brake assembly. You will need a 6mm hex key. Again, I like to use that crescent wrench to give me some leverage without having to use the short side of that hex key, which is difficult to do. Remove the anti-tip wheels in the back, and then you're going to see that the frame and the base just detaches from the transaxle assembly. So we're going to go ahead and put that off to the side, and that's really it. I mean, you can't really buy electromagnetic brake standalone. You have to get the entire transaxle motor and brake assembly in one piece. So when you're going to replace that, there's really nothing to it. You just have to know where the cables go and all the connectors, which you saw. Everything is unique. Just take pictures when you're taking it apart, removing the old parts and putting the new parts back in. There's nothing to it. You've got a black and a red wire going to the controller for the positive and the negative, and then a 2-wire clip for the brake assembly to connect to the power board. And that's it. So I'm gonna go ahead and pretend like I'm replacing the motor. I'm lining up the assembly and the holes on the frame that line up with the actual scooter's frame to mount it back on. You want to go ahead and get the bolts through the anti-tip wheels one at a time, and then just tighten everything back up. I mean, at this point, we've completely disassembled the entire base, and we're just putting it back together. So you can stay tuned for the rest of the video, or just kind of do everything in reverse, right? That's really all there is to it. So here I am tightening everything up, flipping it back over, and we're gonna go ahead and reconnect everything back to the power board. So you've got your white connector, which is the 2-wire connector for the brake assembly going in. And then we have the same type of connector that goes to the actual brake assembly. There is a fuse there, a spare fuse, which is nice. Just wanted to point that out. So you do have a main fuse and a spare that comes with the scooter. At this point, I'm just reattaching the controller back to the frame, to the base here, with the 2 screws, and I'm gonna just begin attaching all the connections. So there's the main wire harness connector going all the way to the right side of the controller, and then you've got your 4-wire pinout connector right next to that, then your 2-wire electromagnetic brake pinout connector there. Again, everything's unique. The only thing you gotta worry about is the positive and the negative for the motor and the battery, but if you look closely at the controller, there's an icon. One for a battery and one for a motor with M, has the positive and the negative on each side, so you know where the red and the black go. Red goes to positive, black goes to negative. So just connect everything like you're seeing here in this video. First, you want to do the motor, and then all the way at the end, you've got the battery, negative and positive. Now, when you're putting it all back in, you got to make sure your wires are organized and kind of refer back to the pictures that you took, because there's not a lot of room, and there's, like I said many times, a lot of screws. The last thing you want to do is have one of those wires get stuck in between the holes from the top part of the frame and the bottom part of the base, rather. And when you're screwing those 46 screws back in, you might just drive through one of those wires and create a short. And then you're going to have more problems than you need. So be very careful, take pictures, refer back to your pictures and videos to make sure that when you're putting your wires back in place, all of the wires are the way they were when you took it apart. Super important. So again, the front steering assembly and the front axles and the tie rods, adjusting the alignment and all that, I don't recommend doing it unless you're a technician. If you know anything about adjusting alignment, there's really nothing to it. You just have to adjust those nuts and kind of, you know, either go clockwise or counterclockwise with the tie rod. I recommend just taking those 2 top bolts out and the bottom bolts and just replacing the entire front end assembly if you have any issues like that. You're gonna have a lot of headaches if you're not a technician and you haven't done alignment jobs before. So I'm not gonna go through that part. I'm just gonna put this scooter back together again and make sure that you connect your brake assembly, the brake button rather, to turn the brake system on and off. That's super important. Your scooter won't work if that's not connected. So I'm just doing that and now kind of making sure all the wires are in the right place so that I can put the top half of the base back together and start screwing everything back together, which, as you know, is going to take a long time. So I'm going to take this time to say thank you so much for watching our YouTube video, and we really appreciate your support. And we have tons of repair videos, comparison videos, review videos. So I highly recommend you get familiar with our YouTube channel and our website. We offer tax-free sales, free shipping on parts, OEM parts. We have lifetime customer support, and we'd love to hear from you. We'd love to earn your business. Again, this is the Golden Buzzaround Carry-On, our top selling scooter, and we are going to make a whole nother video to show you how to replace every component on the tiller. The tiller's in now, but you will need to adjust the tiller to make sure that it's not loose, but not tight enough to where you can't turn. And that takes a little while. So don't be frustrated. Get that main bolt that holds the tiller in place snug enough to where you can turn, but it's not wobbly. And then once you're done with that, get all the rest of the screws in, put that little cap on for the main wire harness connection in case you need to access it, and you're good to go. That's really it, guys. We've reached the end of this video. Again, we have other videos showing you how to do things like change the tires or clean the bearings in the axle. A lot of the times customers get hair on the axle and the wheels start squeaking or grinding. Really common. We have a repair video for that. We also have another repair video that shows you how to fix the tiller if your tiller's not adjusting or tilting, lowering, going all the way down, coming back up, in case that yellow lever stops working. That's a really common issue, and it's super easy to do. So I'll put the link in the description, or you can click the top right-hand corner to watch that video on how to fix a broken tiller. All in all, though, we plan on making a lot more videos for this particular model. A lot of DIY videos, a lot of hacks, and review videos coming soon. So make sure you subscribe, not only for a chance to win, but to get notified when we release new videos just like this one. Again, folks, I'm Sergio with Mobility Direct. Thank you so much for watching. Until next time, everybody, have a great day.